Okay, this is Dee with Unplug Ministries, and I'm glad that you all are joining us today with Zoom instead of my cell phone is not working properly, so it's sort of hard to do my recordings now for my podcast. So I am lucky and privileged to do it on Zoom with Andrea Mason. Um, Andrea is a coach of many types. She has a lot of hats that she does to she has a heart to really help people in so many different ways. And she stops to do what is best to help those who are in need, whether it be mentally, whether it be emotionally, whether it be physically, or I'm not even sure, maybe even spiritually. You know, I know with me, I do all of it because I think we all have issues in every angle that there is in the world that we live in today. So I'm happy that Andrea, you are here with us today. And I'm going to give Andrea the floor for the next 15 to 20 minutes. She's going to share us her story, what helped her to get started, what she's doing now, why she's doing it. And then the last 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to discussion together. And with any questions and answers, um, the floor is yours, Andrea. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dee. My name is Andrea Mason, and I am your personal accountability coach and global certified motivational speaker under the mentorship of the Mr. Les Brown. It all started decades ago when I was born in South America, Colombia, South America, during the war-torn drug zone era at its prime. My parents had to make the ultimate sacrifice to put me up for adoption, for they were unable to care for themselves, let alone me. They sent me to the promised land of America, where I arrived at 11 pounds at only 11 months. Imagine that. That's £1 per month. And my parents instilled me and notified me when I was of age, around the age of 7, that I was adopted, that I was their treasure. I was their gift to them. But little did they know, being a treasure for them was a blessing. However, it was a tragedy for me. For I had no photographs, no medical records, no knowledge of my birth parents. And it was at that moment that I decided to pursue my mission to follow your heart and not the herd. Following your heart and not the herd means that the herd will get you hurt. For following your heart on the other side is happiness and love and success. And as I went through my elementary and middle school years, I was a victim of abuse of all kinds. I was bullied. Imagine being thrown into trash cans, shoved into lockers because you didn't fit in. You looked different. You talked different. You acted different. And it was on my ability that I would go into the bathroom and have my lunch, just waiting, just praying for this period to be over so I could get back to my class. Because I had to work 10 times harder than the average student just to get by. Who would have thought the tragedy of having no identity would leave you as feeling abandoned, feeling an outcast, not fitting in, and realizing at a young age, your parents didn't even want you. How could you love yourself? How could anyone love you? But my adoptive parents instilled in me unconditional love, and they still resound in my ear today. Andrea, no matter what you do your best, do what you love, and always act with integrity. Well, I did so, and I installed in the industries of social work and psychology, where I spent 2 decades of experience working with individuals from infantry to geriatric, on the streets to the heinous crimes of the institutionalized. And I made it my mission that my story, my message, and my voice will be heard. And after pursuing my career in those industries, I decided to take a leap of faith and do what I love, learning and loving about individuals. October 2020, a year for me, was a year of clarity. As everybody was struggling, I was striving to be the best. I connected with Mr. Les Brown and have been an alumni under his wing to motivate, to empower and instill my message to the world. And here I am before you, successful as a personal accountability coach, where I teach you how to achieve personal freedom through the healing power of forgiveness. See, it's easy. Some people say forgive and forget. I say forgive and move forward. For when you lose someone, when you're a victim of abuse or bullying, or you lose a family member, it is most important that you forgive the incident, but not forget it, for those are the scars that are going to remind you the lessons that you've learned in life. And after the passing of my mother in 2007, I have turned my loss into light and build my legacy of life through her love. I thank you, Miss D, for being here, for allowing me to be a part of Unplug Grief, and I welcome every one of you.
So I was just, you did that really quick. I was hoping it'd be longer. So I was hearing.
Oh, you said about, I have more time. You just said, you told me about 10 minutes.
10 to 20 minutes.
Oh, my mistake. Okay.
But if you have more, go ahead and speak, because
Absolutely.
I'm hearing from you how you took your loss and turned it around and made something positive out of it.
Yes, ma'am.
And a lot of people don't know how to do that. And one of the things I teach in my grief classes is that a lot of people turn their anger towards God. And it's okay to be angry at God. It's what you do with that anger. You can either take that anger and do something terrible and bad and hurt someone with it, or you can take that anger and take that type of loss and turn it around and do something positive.
Yes, and to be quite honest, Deb, after losing my mother in 2007, my adoptive mother, it was heart-wrenching. It was like a piece of me was taken away. You know, my parents were very successful bankers on Wall Street, and I saw them after school hours. And it was difficult because my safe haven was my home. My family welcomed me with open love and open hearts and open minds. And when I had lost my mother in 2007, I was frustrated. I was angry. I was like, again, how could you take another parent from me? I didn't do anything wrong. I don't deserve this. I need my family. Family is so important to me. And so I suppressed my feelings, Deb, for years and decades, until in 2015, I still remember it like yesterday. I was on my way to work and then on my way to school. And I remembered going into work, and I didn't feel quite right for some reason. And I had difficulty breathing. So my company had, offered to take me to the hospital. Upon arrival, I had gotten an assessment and everything was okay. It was just, they couldn't really understand what was going on. They ran, the basic vital tests. They sent me home. Hours later, I get a call in the evening and saying, we did an oversight. We missed one of your tests. You have been diagnosed with myasthenia gravis. Now, for those of you who don't know, that's a terminal Graves' disease affecting the autoimmune system. Prior to that, because of my suppressed anger, my suppressed frustration, my suppressed loss for so many years, I had developed a laundry list of medical conditions, that of fibromyalgia, osteopenia, appendectomy. I have 7 ulcers on my gallbladder that had to be immediately removed in my early years of my 20s. I had rheumatoid arthritis. I had carpal tunnel syndrome, upper respiratory. Now, if you look up all of these conditions, they are all autoimmune based. And what do I mean by that? Brace yourself, these are self-induced because I wasn't taking care of me. I was so angry and frustrated that our Creator, again, took another significant family member from my life. To go back to that, I went to the hospital. They said, Andrea, you have to come in. We have to run further tests the next day. Went to the hospital. As they started running tests, my mind became matter, and it was mind over matter. And a few moments later, I remember waking up into the ICU unit, hooked up to machines, not realizing that I had lost all functionings of all four limbs, unable to breathe on my own will, as well as keep down food. I was hospitalized for an entire week. And I remember the conversation with my husband saying, I don't know what to do. He said, you need to come home for our son. You need to come back home where you're loved and nurtured. You can't be there. And spoiler alert, I unplugged for 7 to 10 years prior from media and TV. And I remember watching an excerpt of The Secret. I won't go into great detail, but there's a medical excerpt in that movie. And I applied it, and I woke up the next day. The treatment team was ready to greet me for further assessment. And they said, Mrs. Andrea, if you are unable to keep down food, unable to use your limbs, your stay will be extended until further notice. At that moment, I just smiled, draped my feet over the hospital bed, and I jumped down due to my petite stature. And at that moment, mind over matter in a positive way, I walked to the nurse's station and back and was able to consume healthily and fully my breakfast and lunch. And by mid-afternoon, my father picked me up and I was able to greet our son at school. And I will never forget this. I surprised him in the back of the car as he entered the vehicle. And he said, Mommy, it's like Christmas. I prayed for you to come home last night, and it's like Christmas. I am happy you are here, and I'm happy you are safe. And as a young child held my hand, he never let go until we got to our home. And so, ladies and gentlemen, yes, it is important to grieve. It is important to heal. Allow yourself to feel. But for 2 solid years after my mother's passing, I disconnected from my family, my husband, and I would drive to the grave site, which was an hour commute one way, just to stare at her headstone. And finally, after 2 years, my aunt had kind of snapped me into reality. And she said, you know what? Your mom's not there. Your mom is right here. As she put her hand on mine above my heart. And she says she's closer to you than ever. And at that moment, I could have given up. I could have given up coming here to America. I could have given up when I was a victim of bullying, a victim of abuse of all kinds. But resilience and mind over matter, and in reinstilling your faith, that is what will get you towards happiness and success. Allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to heal. But most importantly, forgive yourself. My good friend, Nelson Baldajar of the PositiveDrift.com, overcome adversity. He was given an actual timestamp of his time to leave this earth. And he stared in the face of death and said, not now. I have a mission. And to this day, as we are close friends, he reminds me of the word impossible. He says it's a beautiful word, isn't it? He said, because before impossible, before the word possible is I am. And you are here for a reason, here for a season, and you are most valuable and significant to this world. So learn to live a life of selflessness, genuinity, authenticity. Always act with integrity, be loving, and most importantly, be present.
The mindset does have a lot to do with it. And unfortunately, the society doesn't teach us how mind over matter makes a difference.
Absolutely.
And the fact that somebody told you something negative and over that mind over matter, changing that mindset, no, 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 and then jumping out of bed and showing proof that physically I can do what I can do if my mind tells me to do it.
Yes, ma'am.
Because actually the brain tells you what you can and can't do. But if your
Correct.
brain is telling you, yes, you can get up, and God shows proof that you can get up and walk to the nurse's station and back, then it's not only just over mind over matter, it's also God's healing.
Yes. And
God,
you can't handle, he'll take care of. And most importantly, I would like to also add that I do have, since that day, a clean bill of health and has been extremely healthy up until this day.
I have one of my partners that I do our grief classes with. She also is going through fibromyalgia and the hand issue, and she just got out of the hospital with heart issues, and this is a reminder that some people, we all need to. I think it's a matter of us retraining our brain.
Absolutely.
Because if we leave our brain in that what society teaches us, and we believe what society tells us, then there is no mind over matter, because we want to believe what they say and not believe what our intuition and what our brain tells us.
Correct. And that's what allowed me and our family to make the conscious decision to unplug from media. We invest what we want. Our mind is a sponge. And don't forget, as I studied social work to understand the cultural diversities, the differences, the uniqueness, and the social economic status of individuals worldwide. But I also studied psychology to understand the science behind why we do what we do, why we don't do what we do. And one of my experiences as in the industry was I would go to meet the patients, whether it be on the streets, in their setting, in the institutions, or in incarceration, and I would put aside the file. I would tell my supervisors, I don't need to read the file right now. Let me get to know them on a human level. And I remember, with respect of confidentiality, coming home and saying, wow, I met this amazing individual. Unfortunately, their crime was A, B, and C. And the response was, how could you speak to such a monster? And my response was, how could you make such a judgment? For that individual only knew that behavior, only was a victim of that behavior, or had limited or lacked knowledge, or like you said, as being programmed. And don't forget, the first 7 months of our life is where we learn instinctually. And then the first 7 years is what we learn from our environment. So nature and nurture plays a significant role in it. And I always used to look back to it. For my first 11 months of my life, I would hear explosions, gunshots. It was a war-torn drug zone era of the cartel in Colombia. And so it wasn't until recently I now understood why I would wince during a severe thunder and lightning storm. Because I would hear thunder and I would wince. I would see lightning and I would wince. So the drama and trauma instinctually and in utero is very prominent. And a lot of us self-sabotage and self-destroy ourselves. Oh, I'm not good enough. I am my condition. And on my YouTube channel, I have a few videos. Are you based on your diagnosis? Or are you working on your prognosis? Another video is, are you defined by your condition, or is your condition defined by, are you defining your condition? Because like you said, the mind is either that of wisdom or can be a weapon. And in these times of two-dimensional worlds, we can have a bunch of 99 likes and we can have one dislike, and our immediate focus is drawn on the negativity. And be courageous enough in a civil and respectful manner, if willing, to address that individual. What drew you to that conclusion in a civil, respectful manner? But at the same token, don't dismiss the 99 that are rooting you on, that have been there from day one. And when we have our alignment of our mind and our heart combined, that's when we truly are at our best. And the most amazing quote I love is from one of the plays that I've always seen about probably 10 times now with my parents. Is from Les Miserables. To love another person is to see the face of God. And I truly believe that when we start connecting, rising and uniting, and seeing each other as part of a human race and humanity, that's when we destroy, no more conquering and dividing.
We are taught by influence.
Yes.
So what we learn from our parents, whether they teach us is wrong or right, we still taught by influence.
Correct.
But yes, you're right about one thing. I remember before my son died, we had both made a decision in our lives of making that change to be positive, and that allowed the negative. And we learned this, and I know a lot of people may not want to hear this, but it's accurate and it's true. But we learned the change of our behavior and the change of our spiritual life, our mental life, and everything by listening to Joel Osteen. And it was because of him I was able to go back to my church and make changes. Now, before all that, I had suffered with bipolar for many, many years. And my son suffered from that. But when we made that change, mind over matter, when we made that change to change who we are, our behavior, the kind of decisions we make, it was like a whole load rolled off our shoulders. It was like that peace that we got. So I have a lot of people in my church are in the medical world, PAs, nurses, doctors, mental health, and everything. You name it, they're all there at my church. Right. So I have a friend that I know, she and I are good friends, that's in the mental health. So when I speak about this, she goes, "Oh, D, you can't say that to people." And I'm like, why? Why? Because she says, well, number one, because you do okay and you're surviving and good things are happening to you without the medication, it doesn't mean that's going to happen with them. I said, yes, what medication is only good. What might work for one person might not work for another person. Correct. To me, it didn't work. So even if they may still be on medication, I think teaching them and guiding them and leading them to know that mind over matter. I chose not to let my bipolar control me.
Yes.
I chose to control my bipolar, even if that means getting off the medication. But that is what works for me because I chose, number one, God. And number two, mind over matter, changing my mindset. And
that, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, I know it's a touchy subject, and I understand what my friend at church was saying, but I think people still need to hear the testimony story, how they decide to let the mindset change their mental or their physical condition, like you were just testified, like I know what is testified, and it made a big change in my spiritual world as well, not just my mental or my physical. But then since Timothy died, my mindset has always stayed positive and above. But a lot of times with grief, and a lot of people don't understand this, some people may, is that often depression does come in with your grief and a few other things like your health condition and stuff like that. It does happen, especially when you lose a child. But with you were close to your mother, so all of a sudden all these health conditions began to happen after your mother died. So, but then again, I had to, like you said, teach myself that mind over matter so that my health, even when my cancer came back, I didn't take it as a negative thing. And I didn't take it as God punishing me either. I took it as a path or a journey that God has me on, that He's trying to teach me. He's trying to build my character. He's trying to do something good and allow me to use that experience to share with others, to give them the hope that they deserve as well. Just as you are giving that hope to others, it's finding the path that God has put us on, that journey, as rugged as it may be, as tough as it may be, that's how we're holding ourselves accountable.
Absolutely. And it's amazing how you said that, because that's what my mother said. She said to me, these were the cards that I was dealt. I'm not mad. I'm not ashamed. But I'm just gonna, let it play out. And that's what she did. There was no regrets, no grudges. And it is so important, Dee, like you said, to kind of allow yourself to heal. We are shunned with today's society to express our emotions.
Yes.
Desensitized now that people aren't able to express their feelings, or else they go into this compartmentalized box of
Yes.
a stigmatism. And that's what after serving 2 decades in the social work and industries field, I said, I'm not going to be a part of this. I'm not going to victimize these individuals much more than they already have. And the biggest misconception about mental health and those individuals who are grieving is that they lack intellect. And when we realize it's the complete opposite, that their experience, their knowledge is so immersive and intrusive and so amazing, we need to educate our future. We need to educate our judicial system. We need to educate the government. We need to educate everyone, the public, that it's a condition of an imbalanced maintenance of their emotions, their thoughts. Some have severity levels, some have, not as severe. But we have every single second of our life the ability to choose. Every single second we have a choice. And that's what I do with accountability. Is when I when I help individuals and I guide them, I make the analogy that I'm like a caregiver or a parent holding the bicycle seat of someone riding the bike. They develop and create their own path. I'm just here to keep them on the right path, the path less chosen, to plan life according to them, to allow them to make the decisions, that everything they do is intentional, and everything is a choice. And there's more than one way, as you mentioned before, for everyone. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yes.
There's more options available.
And God uses us. We're his angels to be there to help people no matter what they're experiencing. You're lucky you have that background, that education, and you understand not only the physical, but mostly the mental, and know where to go with that. For me, I'm learning to be a mental health coach, but I've learned from my own experience, as well as being around other people. That was my education, but I'm still taking classes to be certified in it, to have a better understanding of not only my mind, but how to help those so that we can walk on that path. Because God gives us the light. He puts us through the schools, the college, the knowledge, the education, the skills, the experience, so that we can be that light, that miracle, that angel to help guide other people.
Absolutely.
People think that, yes, they're all probably real angels out there, but God also uses us. And that's why you hear people say, oh, you're my angel, you're my angel. Yes, God sent us for a reason, and he uses us as humans to be there for each other, to be that support and that love for each other. And it's because of that we see God's love.
Yes. And it's funny you mention angels, because these are the 2 pendants that I wear that are angel wings. One is 2 hearts with angel wings, for those unaudible. That is from my son and my husband. And the other one is from my father, an angel with a halo above it from my father. And I'm sure my mom is included as well. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I look back at my story back when my mother died. I was 10 years old. And back then, as a little child, we're taught, like I said, we're taught by influence. We're taught by what our parents teach us. And we don't understand why we're going through all this. And as we grow up, we go through all that difficulties, and we don't understand it. And sometimes it's not until we become the adult,
Right,
and we make the change of the mindset, and we go towards something that's more positive, more angelic, more that we look back and we have our aha moment.
yes, absolutely.
Because I was looking at your Facebook today because I was posting some more about this.
Yes,
And I saw you had a thing about our stories.
yes,
And I've been trying to encourage people also to tell their stories. Because a lot of these people say, well, don't look at your past, don't look at your past. And I'm saying, well, it depends how you look at your past, because people don't realize your past is your story.
yes,
Because if you did not go through everything that you went through in your past, you would not be who you are today.
absolutely, absolutely. And it's all, like you mentioned, it's all about perspective.
Yes.
And that's what opened my eyes to the world. As I started speaking on different continents and in different countries, I had a clearer vision of what I understood now as the perspective lifestyles, the cultures, the history, the backgrounds of individuals, where the media and social society has a skewed false perspective.
Yes.
And so what I do is I'd rather be informed. I'd love to ask questions. And each of us has a story. We all have a story about life. We all have a storybook of life. Some of us have chapters of loss, anxiety, and struggling. And others that we all have some chapters of our wins, our celebrations, our milestones, our memories.
Yes.
Like you said, it's how we look at it. It's about, Steve Jobs says you're not supposed to connect the dots going forward, but look at the dots connected from before. Look at where you've been. Be grateful where you are, and know that the dots are going to connect where you need to be. And I think that's really powerful when we understand that everything that's happening to us is part of our story. And what we've overcome and what we've gone through, that is going to help, like you said, someone in the darkness. Because if I had someone like me or like you or like Mr. Brown, when I was going through those tough times in high school, middle school, being bullied, being abused, maybe I would have done things different. But it was difficult. I had to go through that pain. I had to go through that loss to learn how to unconditionally love, to learn how to fall forward, to fail forward. And one of the amazing things was during my journey, I was never fearing failure. I look at my life, it's been crazy. I feared success. Am I going to be enough to help everyone? Am I going to be enough to share my abundance? Am I going to be enough for those in need? And the answer is yes, because I have a story somewhere in my timeline that can resonate and would be relatable to individuals to help them get out of the darkness.
Well, Andrea, I really want to thank you for being part of our podcast for today. We're going to have to do this again because I know you have a much greater story than what you shared today. And that you also have many hats that we can bring one of the other hats on, and that you can share and educating and training us to become better people, because that's our goal, is become better people. If you are more interested in listening to Andrea and about her life story and stuff like that, she does have a website, AndreaMason.com, right?
Masons, yes, with the plural. Somebody took the single version, so it's AndreaMasons.com. I can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook. I've just surpassed 300 videos on my YouTube channel, Your Personal Accountability Coach, Andrea Mason. And for everyone watching, listening, and being part of this amazing audience on Unplug Grief, I want you to grab your cell phones, go to your email, type in am.pressplay@gmail.com. In the subject line, type in Unplug Grief with D, and you will receive your complimentary gift with me as a token of appreciation and gift for your presence today.
Well, I would like to book you again. We can get together and probably today we talk about more about accountability. And I know you also coach in other areas as well, and we can bring that on. But I really want to thank you, and I hope that the next month or two or more, that God blesses you even more as you continue, in a way, minister to others in these different hats that you wear, and that you continue to be someone's miracle or someone's blessing as well. And
thank you so much. It's been a blessing to be here, and I'm so grateful for our connection. You know, Mr. Brown says, you know, coincidence is God's way of being anonymous, and I'm grateful for our connection today.
Yes. Well, thank you for being here, and I really enjoyed listening to you. And I hope and pray that within the next few months that you can come on again. I have to look at my schedule, but I'm gonna put you on again. I have quite a few people I brought back because their stories and what they're experiencing and what they're sharing is really what I consider the angels here on earth. So have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful the rest of September, October, November, and maybe December I can probably rebook you. So
excellent. I welcome the opportunity. Thank you again.
All right. And tell your husband, lock that auto focus.
The autofocus, I will. Yes, ma'am.
Tell him good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Take
Have
care.
a wonderful time. Bye-bye.
You too. Be well.
Bye-bye.